Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining the 2020 Esri User Conference Women in GIS Special Interest Group meeting. So we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Margot Bordney. I'm one of the founders of Esri's Women's Enablement and Career Advancement Network, or WeCan, and I'll be your moderator today. And for a little bit of background, want to share that back in 2017, several colleagues and I started this group WeCan with the mission of enabling women of all backgrounds at Esri to achieve their goals and build strong careers. And we did this because we know that fostering a culture of equity, a culture of inclusion and belonging here at Esri makes us a stronger company, a better company. We're better able to serve our global user community that's out there solving some of the world's most difficult challenges, which we saw all throughout the week and at the plenary. So one of the ways that we try to build this into the fabric of Esri is by bringing events and content to the UC every year that allows women and their allies to connect, to share resources, and to elevate and celebrate women's accomplishments in GIS. So you can follow us on Instagram at wecan_Esri to find out about other events like this taking place throughout the year. But today, we're going to be focusing on showcasing amazing organizations from all around the world that exist to support and advocate for women in the geospatial industry. The idea being that we connect everyone here to ways that you can be a part of a community beyond just this 1 hour that we have together today. So the organizations featured today include Black Girls MAPP, Women in GIS, Women in Geospatial Plus, African Women in GIS, and Women in GIS Kenya. And you will also hear from Esri Press about their book series highlighting women's contributions to GIS. We want to acknowledge also that these organizations you're going to hear from are just a few of the many organizations out there doing amazing work. And we know this is not a comprehensive list. And we actually have a survey at the end. We encourage you to share any other organizations that you know of or initiatives advocating for women that you think could be featured in a future session. So finally, I also want to stress that there's going to be a lot of great information and resources shared today, but don't worry about taking notes. We're trying to capture everything. Everybody's going to receive follow-up email and there's going to be a link to a blog post to a story map where you can read more about each organization and all the ways to get involved. So without further ado, we're going to kick things off with our very first speaker, Stacy Krieg from Esri Press, who's going to be talking about their book series highlighting women's contributions to the geospatial field. Stacy?
Thank you so much, Margot, for inviting me to speak today. So I wanted to start off by giving you a little bit of background. In early 2018, my manager, Catherine Ortiz, and I were given the extraordinary opportunity to talk with Catherine Sullivan. Can you switch to the next slide, please? The astronaut and the first American woman to walk in space. We wanted her thoughts about how we could be part of bringing the knowledge of GIS and mapping to outside of Esri and GIS users. How could we reach beyond our existing users to any age, color, walk of life, interest, or science that might not think about using GIS? And how could we show them that applying data science to any problem or idea would get a positive outcome? So as we talked with Catherine, she guided us to the realization that we should really focus on young women. They were the future generation, and they were going to take on the challenges of the future world. She said to speak to them about what interests them, not necessarily the technology, but to find out what their passions are. Find out that they want to improve their lives and the people's lives around them. Encourage them to take STEM classes and tell them that GIS and mapping could make their passion a reality. So after that conversation, Esri Press took on its own challenge, and we thought about ourselves, our families, our mothers, our daughters, our mentors, the women in the corridors of Esri that inspire us every day, and the idols we grew up with. And we thought what influenced and inspired us might influence, inspire others. So we did what Esri Press does. We wrote a book about it. Can you move to the next slide? So our first volume of Women in GIS, Mapping Their Stories, Claudia, Alicia, Carolyn, Candace, and I reached out to 23 amazing women, helped them tell their stories, to understand their challenges, and in the end, we made 23 amazing friends. And even though we had a clear vision of what this book would be about, we weren't quite sure how it would be received. But if you could switch to the next slide, Margot. Oh, I thought it was the one about the UC. Anyway, the UC 2019, the book was positively accepted by everyone. Everyone was so thankful that we published it. They were honored to be in it. They really wanted to show people, this is what I do for a living. They wanted to give it to their mentors and say, thank you for believing in me. And they also wanted to show it to young women and say, if I can do it, you can do it too. So we all strive for this diverse and inclusive geospatial community where everyone's empowered to solve the world's greatest problems. It's essential to building in a sustainable and prosperous future. And we especially acknowledge the burden that systematic racism has put on women of color. And we understand the importance of inclusion and representation, especially in the STEM fields. So knowing all this and knowing the positive reaction, we couldn't just stop at 23 women. So we have volume 2 that came out in March. You can see it right here. In Women in GIS volume 2, there's 30 more spatial science stars. And we've just scratched the surface of the power of women working together to solve issues in the world. And these 50 plus women altogether encompass a broad spectrum of how GIS and geospatial science affects all parts of science and all cross representing each other, including such topics like education and government and business. And these are just some women that were represented in the book. The next one was humanitarianism and environment and conservation. And we have a list of everyone that was included, which should be the next slide. And I would love to tell every one of these people's stories because they're so fascinating. However, I only have 5 minutes, so we'll have to keep going. And we hear this from women over and over again. If I had known about geospatial science or the career in geospatial science, I would have gotten to it so much earlier. And so I can only imagine a different world if these underrepresented minds were able to contribute. So I know we haven't done everything we can. There's so much more to do, but I'm so happy that we're here, that we're talking, we're communicating, whether it's through a book, a webinar, a professional organization, an article, a video, a webinar. All these women in these books have recommended somebody to be in the book or have been recommended by someone else. They're all uplifting each other. So I encourage you to just keep raising the bar, to keep motivating and mentoring and inspiring, because here at Esri Press, I can tell you that you have all really inspired us. And this last slide, I just wanted to say that you can watch our webinars that we've done with We Can. We take a deep dive on women's work and answer questions with them. We have 2 already up and there's more to come. And you can also buy either volume 1 or volume 2 of the book in the Esri merch store. And I also wanted to mention that we're working on volume 3 right now. So if you have anyone you would like to nominate, please let me know. My contact information is on the slide. Thanks, Margot.
Thank you so much, Stacy. What an incredible collection of stories. I can, personally vouch for the fact that this is an amazing book. I have it right here. I'm a big fan. These women are truly superheroes, all of them, and I've been fortunate to meet several of them, and they all just are brilliant, talented people who are making a difference in so many ways in the world. So thank you, Stacy, and thank you to the Esri Press team for telling those stories, and we hope there are many more to come. And now, as promised, we're going to transition to hearing from several of the community organizations that are out there supporting women in the field. And the first one that I am proud to introduce is Black Girls MAPP. And I'll let Reina Kamau, who is one of the co-founders of this organization, who's calling in live from Redlands, California, tell you more about this organization. Reina?
Thank you, Margot. Well, first off, I want to say that I'm extremely humbled to be among such a distinguished panel. And I'm grateful that Black Girls MAPP has an opportunity to participate in this session. Like you heard, my name is Reina Kamau. I am a Kenyan native living here in the US, and I've been living out here for the past 8 years now. I work as a partner strategic advisor here at Esri, and I co founded Black Girls MAPP alongside my colleague who is a senior UI UX architect here at Esri. She's a mother, she's pursuing her PhD, she loves music, she's just an all around boss. Her name is Whitney Katluski. And so we can go to the next slide. I really wanted to echo Nicole Franklin from the GIS for Equity and Social Justice SIG session earlier today, because she mentioned that, mapping might not be enough to address racial equity. Without action, our mapping efforts are useless. And primarily, our goal here, at Black Girls MAPP is to help visualize these racial and social injustices that most of our marginalized or our underrepresented communities get into, in the hopes of putting these deliverables in the hands of decision makers that can make help, or that can help follow up with some action items or some action agendas. So when we decided to start it close to 2 years ago, we were just two Black women in a predominantly white and male dominated industry space, asking ourselves, where's the rest of us? And after we conducted some brief research, we found that, while women currently comprise roughly half of the overall workforce, 35% of women are represented in the tech field. And among that 35%, only 7% were Black women. And we can go to the next slide, because that's what motivated us to start Black Girls MAPP. We wanted to celebrate the women that are women of color, and especially Black women who are in GIS, because we understood that there are significant disparities between the percentage of Black women earning IT or tech related degrees and their percentage in the IT tech workforce. So it meant that it's a challenge recruiting us and sometimes even retaining us. Our next motivation number two there, was to evangelize GIS to underserved communities. Um, we found that most women, especially Black women involved in GIS, just happen to stumble upon it, right? For me, I went to undergrad thinking, wanting to pursue civil engineering, but my father encouraged me to go into geomatic engineering. And what that meant was just primarily just surveying. And that's how I stumbled upon GIS. So we want to intentionally educate and share the power of GIS to our communities. You can go to the next slide, Margot. Thank you. So, due to time, I won't be able to demo these projects. Anyone who's been in a Black Girls MAPP presentation, we're always demoing our projects. But I hope that what I share piques your interest to explore these projects on our website. Those are kind of just a few broad topics or broad issues that we've taken a look at. And the first project that I want to talk about here is the Black Women in GIS. And this was among our first applications that we just put together. And we used this to identify and locate Black women in the field of GIS. We launched, I believe we launched this application last year at the UC, and we had so many women, so many Black women come up to us reaching out, wanting to be included in the application, because for the first time they felt like they belonged, and they felt like, I want to know where the rest of us are. The GIS technology used here was ArcGIS Online and Web App Builder. So that was a pretty good start to one of the projects that we worked on. The next app, or the next project I want to talk about, is our GIS and Academia project. And this was focused on allowing users to discover regions near colleges that they are interested in, that potentially offer internships or job opportunities in GIS using Esri Tech. So the dashboard represents or has three synced map windows. The first one is the HBCUs, or historically Black colleges and university locations, GIS programs, and the third one is the Esri partner location. So as users zoom and pan around the window, it all changes extent, and the GIS technology used here was Operations Dashboard and ArcGIS Online. Going to the next project that Black Girls MAPP got involved in is the class of preventable shootings. So this was one of our maps, or it's a story map we put together, and we actually did this last year in October amidst the rising reports of police shootings that the Black community continues to bear witness to this day. We all know what happened to George Floyd, and it's pretty sad, right? That it took his murder for a countrywide awareness and awakeness that we're having today, to see the day-to-day injustices that Black people and oftentimes people of color in America face. So in this application, we primarily let the data speak, and we worked on data collected by the Washington Post and found a few common themes among these stories where we had unarmed Black people getting killed or gunned down. We found out that your race matters, your age matters, your location matters. We looked at highest shootings by the city. Time also matters. So when you get a chance, feel free to go through that. We primarily just use story maps for this particular project. And all these projects that I'm talking about, you can find them on our website, www.bgmap.org. Going to the next project, it's one of our most recent work, and we just dealt with investigating factors that impact health disparities in the Black community. If you tuned into the SIG, Milwaukee County was just amazing, and we found, from some research that there's reasons why the Black community there's a disproportionate number of cases and deaths in the Black communities. We have a higher rate of underlying conditions such as diabetes, asthma, high blood pressure, that make COVID more dangerous, and this is what kind of Milwaukee presented earlier at the Racial Equity and Social Justice SIG. So other reasons that we found, they're also, we're also most likely to work in these frontline jobs. The Black community, we live in, most of us, crowded housing, and we use public transportation. So these factors kind of increased our risk or our exposure to the virus. And this was just story maps as well. The next project I want to talk about is one of our earliest apps that we developed, the Black Businesses in California application. With the recent and increasing awareness of disparities in racial equity, we have been seeing immense pledges to support Black businesses. And we have an awesome team of volunteers who are working on some enhancements to push out this application. Eventually, what we want to do is document and have like a lesson on how you can replicate this for different states or different counties, as we've had major interest in this particular application. And finally, our latest project that we have been very proud of, we launched this about a month and a half ago, the People for the People initiative. And this was in response to the call to change, with the upcoming elections. And Margot, you can go to the next slide. With the upcoming elections and with the obvious police reform changes that need to take place, we decided that this could be an opportunity to engage the community and spread awareness on the importance of voting. These reform changes that we have kept asking for would come about if we have people in power who truly are driven by a passion for their community and not the power that comes with that office. So we have some projects that I'll talk about here, but as of last month, I wanted to share not the statistics, but like the number of supporters who've pledged to help with the People for the People initiative. These are people who are GIS professionals and people who haven't even been exposed to GIS at all, but they're coming together in teams and working on these projects. And in this pool, we have an amazing number of individuals who actually stepped up as leaders to help spearhead these projects. So I would have named them all, but we have so much limited time here. So what are these projects that we're talking about? We have 4 key projects: why and how to vote, which primarily just goes into who can vote, different phases of the voting process, what's the background of our government system. We have the key voting issues, where we talk about racial relations, education, criminal justice, affordable healthcare, amongst so many issues that we talk about. We have to consider while voting. We have the Who's Running project, where we're actually highlighting candidates that, and not just, picking and choosing, but all candidates that are running, incumbents, new candidates, every person running. We want to highlight for us to be able to give the community a good knowledge on who they should consider. And finally, just educational resources, where we want to share so much more about voting that maybe our community does not know about. And so as I finalize, or as I finish here, if you would like to be a part of the People for the People, you can just go to www.peopleforthepeople.org. And you can go to our website, www.bgmap.org. We're also on social media at Black Girls MAPP on Twitter and on Instagram. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Reina, for that really powerful presentation. Your organization is doing really such important work and really leveraging the power of GIS to drive change on such important social justice issues, which really is a testament to the power of, when women lead and when women of color specifically lead, what types of issues get attention. And that's so needed in the geospatial community right now. So thank you. And I'm going to move us along here because we have a lot of presenters. So next up, I want to introduce Anna Miller from Women in GIS.
Hi, everybody. Wow, what an amazing panel of speakers and organizations to be part of and represented here. It really is an honor to be part of this. I'm Anna Miller, like Margot said. I'm currently the president of Women in GIS. Just a bit about our organization, if we can go to the next slide. We are a 501c6 international professional and social advocacy group for women and their allies, and all genders are welcome. Our aim is to help members start and navigate their geospatial careers, serving as a safe place for our members from all geospatial fields to work towards overcoming job discrimination, lower pay, professional isolation, and other common barriers we might face. We do this by fostering relationships and resource sharing among our members and other institutions. Next slide. And how we go about fulfilling our mission is through the hard work of our volunteer committees, who work to provide resources to our members to network, grow, and succeed. And we see this through our professional development committee, communications, interview and spotlight, our internal affairs committee, map development, and mentorship committee work. Looking at a bit about what these committees do, we have our professional development committee, whose volunteers work to provide webinars, panels, and events to our members as resources looking to further their career in whatever subjects we're looking at the time. We also provide workshops as well as awards to look at what our members are doing and really highlight the work. We do have an upcoming event that we'll talk about in a minute, but just coming up next week in July 28th, we'll actually be speaking with Esri's Jennifer Bell on GIS and storytelling, the power of spatial data looking through story maps. Next slide. A couple more events that we have on the panel coming in the next year and a little after. Looking in October, we'll be speaking on a webinar with Rebecca Jones of Florida COVID Action on ethics in GIS. Also coming into 2021, we're excited to speak with Helen Thompson on infographics and analytics. And in March of 2021, we'll have Dr. Maria Fadiman talking on ethnobotany and geography. We'll also be having some panels on GIS career stories. In fall, coming up with Emma Hall, and in winter on nonprofit creation stories. Coming into 2021, we'll also be looking at starting a GIS consulting firm. And we'll have some links later on link to all of these that you can take a look at registering and staying informed on when these will be occurring. Next slide. We also have our communications committee, who's involved with sending out quarterly newsletters, as well as a job listserv that will keep anyone who'd like to be part of that listserv informed of any jobs that come across our dashboard that are really specifically targeting our group. We also have a website that we try to keep updated with any of our events coming through, and this communications committee is in charge of doing that. Same with managing our social media channels. If you've seen us posting through LinkedIn to a common group, Twitter, Instagram, a little bit to Reddit as well, all of these are done through our communications committee. We also have local chapters that will meet, and all of this is managed through our communications committee. Next slide. Our interview and spotlight committee interviews different women that we have come across our dashboard that we really want to shine a spotlight on some of the hard work and what they're doing to succeed in GIS and their career paths. You can check our website under our spotlight interviews to see the latest spotlight on Jennifer Bell. Next slide. We have our map development committee, who maintains our Women in GIS membership story maps, as well as story maps highlighting different WEGIS programs that we're having coming up. If you go to our website, you'll be able to see and click through some of the different members we have as part of our map development. Our mentorship program, or We Connect, is a mentorship program aimed at allowing members to choose their own mentor. They can also participate as both a mentor and a mentee using our interactive interface. You can earn GISP points as part of this, and this will really allow our members to gain access to a network of geospatial professional women that have the opportunity to develop and mentor a relationship with their mentors. Next slide. Our internal affairs committee is maintaining our sponsorship, our membership, finances, elections, basically everything keeping the lights on and also getting us to a status of our 501c6. Next slide. If any of you are interested in becoming a member of Women in GIS, we do invite you to take advantage of all the benefits we can offer, from our quarterly newsletter, participating in our mentorship program, volunteering for any of our elected or volunteer position opportunities that come up, our professional development resources, local chapter information, all of this. And then one thing I really want to mention is that we do have a limited offer of a free ArcGIS for personal use license for 1 year. A huge thank you to Esri for their support. I assume everybody that's part of this is probably using Esri work already, and so you can be getting a free personal use if you become a member within this limited window. If any of these committees sound like they're doing work that's interesting to you, we do have a few volunteer opportunities that we're looking to fill. Our communications committee is looking for a webmaster and website designer, as well as someone to manage our YouTube channel. The professional development committee is looking for volunteers that are interested in helping to plan their future webinars, panels, workshops, events that come up. Our map development committee is looking for a volunteer to work on story maps that are related to programs within our organization. And our internal affairs committee are looking for volunteers with experience in fundraising and sponsorship. Next slide. If any of you would like to learn more about our organization, we'll actually be having a Women in GIS networking session tomorrow, learning a little bit more about the organization, and we'll also hear more from our guest speaker, Dr. Paulette Brown-Hines tomorrow. You can go to our website, womeningis.org/events, and we'll also have it in the blog post about this session. Next slide. Please feel free to visit our website to get in touch. Again, that's www.womeningis.org. You can also reach out to us on Instagram and Twitter at womeningis, or send us an email at admin@womeningis.org. Thank you all so much for having us, and we look forward to being in touch with you soon.
Thank you so much, Anna. That was so great. I love that this organization has such a strong focus on mentorship. It's so important, of course, for succeeding in any field. And so thank you for the work you're doing to build out that network and make those connections. Encourage everyone to get involved and maybe even throw your name in the hat for some of those volunteer positions. So moving right along, we have a full lineup. We want to move to our next speaker, Sienna Williams, who is calling in from Ghana, who's going to be talking about the organization she co-founded and leads called African Women in GIS. Sienna?
Thank you so much, Margot. Hi, everyone. My name is Sienna Lena Williams, and I am the co-founder of African Women in GIS. Today, I'm very happy to present our story, our mission, and our goals to you all. Next slide, please. So to do that, I would like to talk about who we are, our history, the problems that influence our existence, our members and the community activities, as well as the outreaches summary and a motivation to you all. Next slide, please. So first of all, I'd just like to talk about who we are. So we are a community that is made up of African women in GIS around the world who work steady or are just enthusiastic about the geospatial industry and its related fields. Our community allows our members to be themselves, to create networks, to gain mentors, get career advice, partake in geo projects so that they can improve their portfolios, access job opportunities, as well as geo course information. We also provide a platform so that our members can be able to showcase their works as well as their profiles to motivate others. Next slide, please. So I'd like to take us back a bit to our history. Our community started out as two separate groups with the co-founders. That's Chidima from Yogu, who's a lecturer from Nigeria, and myself from Ghana. So Chidima started her community in July 2017, where she made it for only Nigerian women who are in GIS. And I started mine in April 2019 for Ghanaian women. In June 2019, Chidima and I met on LinkedIn, and then we were drawn into a conversation about our respective groups, the challenges we faced as African women in the geospatial industry, and what we could do to kind of address those challenges. So this conversation actually brought us to think about merging our communities and forming African Women in GIS. And that's how African Women in GIS was born. The community started out with 41 Nigerian members, 11 Ghanaian members, and 1 member from Burkina Faso. And the fun fact is, we have never ever met since we created this community. Next slide, please. So I'd like to talk a bit about the problems that influence our existence. Why did we create African Women in GIS, outreaches for short? As I said earlier, Chidima and I discussed certain problems that we were facing in the geospatial industry. And I realized that these challenges can actually be applied to also the STEM fields, the other STEM fields. I am an enthusiastic for technology fields as well as GIS. And I realized that there can be fundamental problems as well as career path problems. I'd like to summarize a bit of what you can see on the screen. So the fundamental problems are actually the issues that we all know start from the grassroots and affect how we perceive things as we grow. And these primarily include the predominance of men in the geospatial industry in Africa, as well as the STEM fields. And we also have a lack of GIS benefits and applications awareness by the public, especially Africa. Due to the inability for women, especially the female students, to see people like us, that is African women in the geospatial field, it is a bit difficult for them to further their education in fields that they don't see people like them in. Therefore, it makes it more easier for men to dominate that field. We also have the issue of the gender career choice of parents, whereby parents try to decide which courses their children can take when they get to certain levels of school. And this can actually lead children away from their passion. We also have the inadequacy of the school curriculums that limit the exposure of children to various career choices, as well as the absence of career guidance. This can actually lead children to lose their way and not know what to choose according to their passion. We know that children kind of change their career choices as they grow, but it is better for them to do so than for parents to impose theirs and limit their creativity as well as their choices. Now let's look at the career problems. These can actually be influenced by the fundamental problems if you look closely. You realize that the GIS career problems are mostly recognized in the pre-job level as well as during their career journeys. So examples are what you can see. We have the limited GIS jobs. And as some of the African people know, it's kind of difficult to get jobs in Africa with GIS. We also have the lack of female role models to look up to and to actually gain as mentors to kind of guide us throughout our career. We also have inaccessible and unaffordable GIS courses, as well as events for us to attend and actually upgrade our skills. We also have some people who do not have any knowledge of geo communities that they can join and benefit from its closure. Next slide, please. Now, I'd like to highlight one of our members. This is Joy Itari from Nigeria, and she shared an experience with me. She said that when she went for a job application, sorry about that. She said that when she actually went to apply for a job, she was given a task, and the task after she was done, she was asked if she really did it herself. Such comments can actually discourage anyone from furthering such a field or in any company related to that field. But after she joined our community, she has not only been further exposed into the GIS field, but she has also connected with ladies like her who are also trying to gain their feet in the geospatial industry. And she aspires to contribute real scientific knowledge in solving community issues. Next slide, please. I'd like to talk a bit about some of the activities you can enjoy when you join African Women in GIS. In order to carry out our mission and goals, we have these following activities. Ongoing, we have the Ibiza volunteering project, where some of our members are actually helping the geoinsurance organization, if some of you have heard of them, to assess farmlands and to help farmers to get farming insurance covers. We also have an ongoing mentorship program for our members that is running for 6 months, but it can continue per the choice of the mentors and mentees. We are also collaborating with AfriSnet. That's an organization that aims to kind of help the African students to pursue their STEM careers and courses around the world in various schools. In addition to these, we have upcoming projects that we'd like to share with you, so you can join us when the time comes. We are collaborating with HERE Technologies to allow our members to join the HERE Digital Mapping Program. We are also aiming to create a recruitment page on our upcoming website, which is yet to be done. And we are also collaborating with interested organizations and individuals on upcoming webinars for the public, so please do look forward to it. We are also hoping to collaborate with women in GIS Kenya, who will be presenting soon, in celebrating Africa Youth Day. And we also want to support our members, post-COVID of course, to spread the awareness of GIS to schools and companies. We hope that this will actually bring more awareness that will help create jobs, as well as encourage women or female students and others to join the geospatial industry, which is the future. Next slide, please. I'd just like to highlight a map that was proudly made by our Twitter head team member, Abena Boatima from Ghana. And as of June 2020, she shared a map showing the countries that we have members in Africa. We do have 200 plus members from 12 African countries. And we also have some from the diaspora. We have the support of about 3,000 followers on LinkedIn with 400 plus followers on Twitter. And I would like to use this opportunity to thank each and every organization or individual who is supporting us in every way. And we are open to more people to follow us and to share in our journey. We are also open to organizations that want to collaborate and impact the lives of Africans. Next slide, please. I'd just like to kind of end my presentation by highlighting another profile by students in our community. This is Rubena Adam from Ghana. And she says that our community has brought her several opportunities that she previously never heard about. and she also aims to use her GIS skills in areas of humanitarian works and help the less privileged in society. I am very happy that our community is actually helping members do more in their fields, and we aim to also influence more people in the near future. I would like to end the community story by saying that we just created this platform to serve as a motivation for African women to take up careers in GIS. We aim to introduce younger generations to GIS careers, help Africa benefit from the applications of GIS, as well as fundamentally bridging the gender gap in the African geospatial industry. My motivation to everyone everywhere, especially the students, is pursue whatever STEM course or career you feel strongly and passionate about. And also, please join the community to be surrounded by people like you who can motivate your journey. Thank you so much for giving us an opportunity to share our story. Thank you so much for listening to us.
Thank you so much, Sienna. That was amazing. It's so inspiring to see you and your co-founder. You saw these barriers that existed for women, and you decided to do something about it. And clearly you're having a huge impact already. And next up, I want to keep moving along. We have a couple more presentations. I want to make sure we have time for everybody. And I also want to remind everyone who's asking questions about collaboration and how to get in contact. We are going to be sharing these resources after the presentation, so you will have an opportunity to collaborate with everyone you're hearing from here. So next up, I want to pass the mic to Women in GIS Kenya. Representing is Yariwo Kitiwo, calling in from Kenya to talk about this group and the amazing work they're doing to support and advocate for gender equity. Yariwo?
Thank you, Margot. Hi, everyone. My name is Yariwo Kitiwo. I'm really excited to be here. Really honored to be presenting alongside such phenomenal women groups. So I'm going to be presenting today about how women in GIS is contributing to bending the curve towards gender equity. And my presentation is going to be structured in this format. Margot, you can go to the next slide. So I'm going to start by introducing who Women in GIS Kenya is, who we are, how we are building a vibrant tech community across Kenya, and most importantly, our agile response to COVID and how we are addressing the gender dimension to COVID. So thank you so much. I'll get started. So a little bit of a background about Women in GIS Kenya is, Margot, you can go to the next slide, please. We are a membership community, and most of our members are from different sectors, from government, academia, private industry, and people in universities. And Women in GIS Kenya was founded by 3 co-founders, and the main inspiration was around our personal stories and looking at the gaps that existed in the industry. And these are all personal stories that we all connected to and kind of resonated with to decide to create a platform that amplified the needs of women and how to just enable them to be really empowered. So Women in GIS aims to provide 4 key elements. And the very first one is we create an enabling environment for women in STEM. The other gap we saw in the industry was having a sustainable mentorship platform and building a really good breed of women leaders. So we now provide that through our community and the women who are part of that community. And then the other bit is just building on the self-confidence of young girls and also women. And this was inspired by our experience in university and also immediately after university, where you're fresh out of school and you really don't know which industry you'll go to, what your future looks like, and who to aspire to be. And we really decided to do that. We decided to provide a platform that exposes all of us to that, but also at the same time pushes for gender equity, simply because at the end of the day, the GIS industry is really male dominated in Kenya, and we really aim to bridge that gap and also empower and inspire other women who come before us, and also for those who are ahead of us to just be a really good inspiration for all of us. So after that, the next slide just focuses on some of the sessions we've had across Kenya. We've actually partnered with universities across Kenya, University of Nairobi, Kenyatta University, Technical University, and this is just a picture to showcase some of the training sessions that we have. And how we do this is through a couple of elements. We build the technical community here through mentorship, through quarterly meetups, which have now been stopped due to COVID. And so for that, we've moved into a session called After Office Hours. And the main aim of this is to just have people talk about tech and have hands-on skills for people in our community. So this is actually bi-weekly, and we're actually running a series on R, which is really exciting. And then the other thing that I will focus on for this presentation, which is now our response to COVID, is the projects element, which is we are doing with our community. And this grew from our own need to just, after we did trainings in university, which is a continuous process, the question was, how do we measure that? How do we ensure that the skills we've imparted in people in universities actually gets transferred, and they can actually apply that to an actual real world scenario? So what Women in GIS focuses on is issues that directly affect women and girls. And that's what I will focus on today, how we are using data and location analytics to address gender gaps across Kenya. Margot, next slide. So I'm going to focus on our gender dimension to COVID, and this is really a response, recovery, and resilience mechanism that we have come up with in collaboration with a couple of partners. And when you look at COVID and the impact it has had, we can go to the next slide, is how we are doing this is how COVID is affecting globally and also locally is the first thing we all talk about across news channels, even in our all personal discussions, is really around the economy. But then are we really talking about how COVID is deepening pre-existing inequalities, how it's affecting women and girls in Kenya and across Africa? And this is really when you talk about a pandemic and how pandemics really expose pre-existing inequalities and how they deepen that. And a good example in Kenya is how we actually have a story map that explains that. But really, to just give perspective, is one of the key issues that are going around the country is how COVID has really brought about a spike in teenage pregnancies, right? This is simply because school has been cancelled for a whole year. So what does this mean? Kids are now in school. Kids are now stuck at home or with their parents. But as they're doing that, there's a lot of inequalities and a lot of vulnerabilities that exist that COVID has really brought about. And one of the other elements is a spike in gender-based violence. The other element is unpaid care work. So women and children are now at home. So how do we have policymakers and government measure and be able to contribute to this unpaid care work to GDP? And that's another impact of COVID. So how we are addressing this is with collaborators across, with key gender players, is we are creating a gender situation room. And the gender situation room is aimed to address all the 4 dimensions that COVID is affecting women and girls across Kenya. Next slide, please. So for the 4 dimensions, we are looking at how COVID is affecting maternal health care, how COVID is affecting the economy in terms of informal employment and unpaid care work, for which women are really affected. We're looking at how COVID is affecting female genital mutilation and how COVID is also affecting gender-based violence. So pre-COVID, we actually, what we do which is really constantly with our community, is using data to understand issues that affect women and girls. We've been doing that for a while. We've had projects around cervical cancer awareness. We've had projects around gender-based violence. So what now COVID brought in about is how we noticed the spike in numbers and how we needed to address that and ensure that women are not left behind during this pandemic, and just ensuring that the needs of girls and women do not fall through the cracks amid this pandemic. So there's a story map that will address that in detail, but I will get into our gender situation room and walk you through why we are calling it a situation room and how it's addressing all these gaps across Kenya. So for the gender situation room, this is what it looks like. Margo, you can go to the next slide. So what the situation room is made up of is, the first key element is data, and how the data is coming in is we have a couple of data streams. The first bit is call centers, and call centers is a toll-free line that government released, which is used to report gender-based violence across the country. So that's one of the elements that come into the situation room. The other component is analytics. The other bit is data streams, and then it's a SaaS platform, so it's running on software as a service. So at the very key component of our gender situation room is location intelligence, simply because women issues play out so differently, and socioeconomic and cultural beliefs also play out so differently across the country. So if you're looking at, for example, next slide, please. When you're looking at gender-based violence, which is what I'll just focus on to just give you perspective of what the situation room looks like. And why we chose the name is, when you think of a situation room, it's actually a military term, and it's mainly a room or a channel that has all the latest information about a certain subject. So ours is a situation room, and it really addresses all gender issues across the country. So in looking at gender-based violence, for example, is how we are currently reporting it through across the country is victims will call through the call center. And now how we are doing it is all the data is going to the gender data hub. The other component is one of the other key elements from the situation room is a gender data hub, which ideally pulls out all these data streams and enables communities to be able to innovate and use the data to create reports, or also understand and give a holistic perspective of the gender situation across the country. So this is also a product from the gender situation room, and we are really excited about what comes out of the situation room. And one of the key drivers is we're able to now understand teenage pregnancies based on socioeconomic and cultural dynamics. We are able to have data-driven policies that empower women across maternal health care, gender-based violence, and female genital mutilation. So that's it for this particular gender situation room. We'll be able to share the slides with Margot. And also, as we go on in the course of the year, we'll have a hackathon to also address these same issues across the country. You can definitely join Women in GIS Kenya through our website. We have a very active Twitter page, and you can do that through, we can host an event together, you can become a volunteer, or you can spread the word across social media. So thank you so much. Margot, I'll just hand it over back to you.
Thank you. Amazing work, Yariwo and Women in GIS Kenya. And I want to go right into our next presentation, Women in Geospatial Plus. We have Olivia Powell, who's calling in from the United Kingdom. She's here to talk to us about this organization. And I want to give her the full time. And I do want to acknowledge that we are not going to be able to answer the questions that you all are actively asking in the chat and in the Q&A. And so we do have a follow-up blog, and we'll be talking about ways that we can continue the conversation after, because you do have a lot of really important questions and we do want to acknowledge them. But today we want to make sure we give you all of the important information about these groups. So Olivia.
Hi, and thank you for having me representing Women in Geospatial Plus today. So Women in Geospatial Plus is a global and free to join inclusive professional network. We promote gender equality in the geospatial field, industry and academia. And really we welcome, the plus is to welcome women, but any other member of the marginalized and underrepresented groups, because we want to build a diverse community. Next slide, please. So our vision is that we want to change the status quo by creating a strong network of women in geospatial leaders and change makers, and through a cohesive and supportive community. Next slide, please. So it all started in March 2019 during International Women's Day, and I think many of us thought the same thing, that we thought equality is still a long way to go for geospatial. And Claudia, Maria, and Julia had the idea together to start this network. And I was thinking of doing it in the UK as well, but Julia put the call on Twitter, and because of it, we all joined in, knowing that togetherness is better than alone. And a year later, we now have a very strong and passionate team of leaders in our steering committee to take it to the next level. And we've got about 1,500 members. Next slide, please. So what we do is we try to build a community. We organize events to support our members. We offer a career mentoring program, and we advocate for diversity. And I'll go a little bit through each now. So we want to create a vibrant community. And for this, if you fill out sign-up form, you get invited to a safe space for women only, women plus only, on Slack. And we've got a number of channels, like you can see here, from support to events or information, or even social and regional channels, to kind of provide this kind of really good supportive community and exchange of experience. Next slide, please. We organize events, so we've had a few talks at conferences representing the Women in Geospatial Plus network. We organize networking events through lunch sessions and breakfast sessions, and we organize a series of workshops and webinars at the moment. So we've had 2 successful in July, and we'll have a few in the few coming months and planning more. So keep an eye on our events channel to have a look at what's coming up. Next slide, please. We also have a mentoring program, so runs from September to July. Our first program was last year and it's just finished. We had 42 participants and it was carefully selected from 190 candidates across the world. Our team did a really good job at matching based on interest and time zones. And as you can see, we had a quite high representation of participants from the UK and the US, but we'd like to ask people to apply for the next session, which is the next program is going to be in September, and we hope to have a bit more representation from other countries. Thank you. Next slide. And we advocate for diversity on our social media platform. We have a Twitter and a LinkedIn account, and we share information, but also we try to highlight stories about our members to kind of give role profiles. But we also advocate for diversity, and that takes me to the next slide, which unfortunately, the lack of diversity in conference is still quite obvious, and we can see all male panels or the hashtag manels still quite commonly in around the world. This is just an example. And research showing that 25% of women are not likely to attend if it's a male-only panel. So we thought there's no excuse anymore about not finding relevant women speakers. We have plenty of very experts around our community. So we started our new initiative, which was we are really excited to talk about, our Women in Geospatial Plus Speakers database. So we launched it for registration in March. We have now more than 150 speakers registered, and it's now open for searching. So have a look for your next event. But basically, we encourage all women to put themselves forward, because this is how you're going to get exposure and grow as in your career. But also all organizations to promote our database so our cohort gets bigger, and our event organizers to start looking for their next speakers to get a good reputation and also get more delegates through their door. And I should say that it's all free, and you don't have to be a Women in Geospatial Plus member to participate. And we're really happy to announce that Esri UK is sponsoring some virtual presentation skills workshop if you register for the database. So it'll be on the first come first basis, but we'll open that next week for 4 sessions. Next slide, please. So as a summary, we think that we're stronger together, and we have members in Women in Geospatial Plus that are also members of African and Women in GIS, for example, etc. So we can be a member of different groups. We collaborate with a lot of them. So if you want to join us, go and have a look at our website, and also follow us on social media. But mostly, please speak up and join our speakers, Women in Geospatial database, and we can make a difference and increase diversity in the geospatial field. Let's make it together. Join us today. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Olivia. I loved your presentation. I love seeing, how you were sick of seeing manels and hearing the same excuses, and you took action. And I will just say, to everyone here, please add the names of the brilliant women you know to this database. And I'll also emphasize, please, let's make sure to make sure that this database is diverse, and nominate, women of color who the brilliant Black women, Indigenous women, women with disabilities. We need to make sure, that, of course, we don't want all male panels, but we also don't want panels of all white women either. We want to make sure that this really represents the rich diversity of our community in all future panels. So we will, unfortunately, I have to say, I think we were a bit ambitious in this presentation in terms of how much we tried to pack in, but we did. I'm happy that we got through, all of the information. I wish we had more time for conversation and engaging your questions, but, I think we're going to have to take that beyond and reach out to all of these organizations on their Twitter here, and there's going to be this blog that we're going to share, if we have not already, in the chat to, as ways to get engaged. So thank you so much. And I do want to also promote the special interest group meeting that is coming up in about 15 minutes. This is a special interest group called the Homecoming. It's an event bringing together people of African descent and their allies in GIS. And we encourage, everyone who attended this session, I would say certainly should be at the next session as well, in support of diversity. So thank you to everyone for taking time to come together as a community today. And we hope you are coming away with a little bit more knowledge about how you can be an active participant in the Women in GIS community. Looking forward to seeing you all at future events. Thank you.